Welcome to PAX Oz, live from the show floor. Today next to me are the developers of Warden, which is an upcoming game. Tell me about it. What is Warden?
So, Warden is a 3D action-adventure game where you play a series of children delving deep into an ancient ruins in search of a lost god.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh, it's the best pastime for children. You know, dungeon crawling, delving deep in, waking up gods.
So what was your inspiration for making it?
So, we really enjoyed the old Nintendo 64 era title games. Things like Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, and we want to bring...
both of those games so much.
Yes! We really want to bring that kind of game back to a modern audience, and especially to a PC audience as well.
We've had a lot of positive feedback from PC gamers who are like, yes, finally, it's been a decade, it's been 2 decades, we've never seen a game like this on the PC.
So both of those games you mentioned, Ocarina of Time and Banjo-Kazooie, have similar kind of structure where you have to get a certain item to be able to complete a quest. Do you have that same kind of structure?
Almost, but not quite, because we also really enjoyed Metroidvania-style titles. So while the direct storyline doesn't require you to do it, you can sequence break the game and just kind of go wherever you want in a large open world.
So when you say open world, I have to ask, what are the graphics like? What's the art style? What's it inspired by?
It's very pastel-based. Lots of bright colours. It's a very rich colour palette. Tim's actually the lead artist, so he's probably the better person to talk about this. But he's designed a really very vibrant, very energetic world, full of colours, and there's so much energy running through.
We just really got tired of games with no colour, grey, boring. I mean, there's a whole range of colours. Why are we not using these?
Every first-person shooter ever.
Pretty
exactly.
much.
So, for getting things pastel-y, would that mean that things are opaque or transparent? I think of Child of Light when you say pastel-y, but it's not 2D, it's 3D.
Yeah, so as a 3D game, there is transparency. We use a lot of transparency to create light effects. We in fact fake out lighting in the game with a stencil buffer trick, and it causes a very cel-shaded-like effect when you look at the game, which makes it really stand out against other 3D games.
It sounds really pretty.
Thank you very much.
So, you've said that you are lost in a forest, but this game sounds really pretty. So is it meant to be scary?
It's we wanted to evoke a sense of wonder and a sense of exploration rather than of fear. And so while a lot of the enemies you come across are quite fearsome, the world itself is very kind of magical, very vibrant, very bright. And so rather than fearful, it's one that we wanted to inspire wonder.
So it's maybe more that it's mysterious rather than being gloomy, or...
Exactly. There's lots of brilliantly lit, really fun zones to explore.
So you spoke about combat. Tell me about that.
Okay, so in terms of combat, what we really liked, we were looking at games like Dark Souls and the combat from games like Zelda, and we really liked the tactics of a game like Dark Souls, where you really have to think about how you're going to approach each enemy. You can't just jump in blind, or else you're going to suffer.
So much evading.
Yeah, so much evading. Rolling everywhere. We love doing that. We've got an enemy in the demo which is called the Mudman, and that's the epitome for me of the combat. And what you have to do is you really have to evade him, because he'll turn and grab you and stop you and just smack you back if you don't do exactly what you need to.
So would you say it compares to the difficulty of Dark Souls?
In a lot of ways, yes, but not quite as brutal as Dark Souls, because our game is targeted towards kids around age 8. The gameplay is... we really wanted a game where you can destroy enemies and take their weapons, because we're sick of games where you kill a baddie, they drop a cool sword, and you can't take their sword. I mean, come on, you want to use the awesome sword.
I always want to take people's helmets. If they have cool helmets, I'm like, damn it, why can't I pick that up? The excuse is supposed to be, it's like, oh, it's too big. Rubbish. So if you can pick anything up, does that mean any weapon anyone has, you can use?
Any enemy drops, you can use.
So how does that limit weapon variety?
So giant enemies, what we do is we break the weapon when it drops, and then you're actually using a shard of that weapon.
Does that mean, since you can use every single one, I assume that different weapons have different weights, that the physics would be different?
Absolutely. So you'll find that you can pick up a small little wooden stick and you can wave that around like it's nothing, but some of the enemies carry massive clubs, and it actually takes the character quite a bit of effort to swing that around, but it does a lot more damage, and that's the payoff for taking your time with that one.
So how significant is combat in the game? Is it something that you do every few minutes, or is it something that you encounter?
It's something you can do every few minutes, but we do have some zones, especially in the early game, where there isn't as much combat, and it's more about exploring and solving puzzles. And so the combat doesn't kind of get in the way of the puzzles, but really complements them. And so you sort of find yourself transitioning between combat and puzzle and platforming.
So you'd say there's a balance there, sort of?
yes, definitely.
Well, what part of the game, then, the puzzles, the exploration, or the combat most excites you, or which part do you like the most?
I actually really like the puzzles. Tim designs a lot of the puzzles here, and I take a lot of joy from playing in your zone and finding that there's a puzzle, and often I'll sit there stumped and just have to work through the puzzle.
That's very cool. So is it only you two working on it?
We've got a core team of 3. So we've got Tim as our graphical artist, we've got Rob, an animator, and we've got Callum, our programmer. I'm the 4th member of the team, I'm the writer. And then we have a series of... How many collaborators are we on, Tim?
Sorry, what was the question?
How many collaborators?
How many collaborators? We have about 6, I believe. We have 2 concept artists who work with us. And on top of that, we have a series of musicians who help us with sound effects and the music for the game itself.
Okay, so because it is really exploration-based, oh wow, it's gorgeous. So I assume that music is a very big part of setting the tone or the atmosphere as well?
Absolutely.
Is that a really hard job?
Especially working with collaborators, it becomes very difficult because they're not in the room with us as we talk about the game ideas.
They don't necessarily have the same vision as you might have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it takes a lot of iteration to kind of get it to that point where we go, okay, this is what we really want to convey with this zone, with the music. Yeah. And
Morgan, you said you're the writer. I assume that is a massive job.
It is. It's been a really exciting process. Normally, this is my first time writing for a game, and the big thing has been allowing for player choice and player agency. And so, while we've got this great story of the Wardens travelling through the forest and discovering the spirits and the god of the forest, you've also got to allow players time to explore and kind of find their own way. And so, what we've done is we've created a lot of areas where the story is told through the environment, and so you'll see remnants of the world that was and hints at what the world will be, and that mostly comes from Tim's amazing art style.
That sounds really intense. So you mentioned that there are several children lost. Can you pick one of them, or are you looking after multiple?
So we've got a total of 5. At the moment, the demo starts with Tavian. He's our male lead, but we've also got in the demo Madeira, who's our female lead, and in the final game you'll be able to play as any of the 5 of them as you unlock them. So as you progress through the game, you'll unlock more characters, and you'll need each of their special abilities in order to complete puzzles and finish levels. So
can you give me an example of the difference between the 2 main characters? What's the difference in their playstyle?
So in terms of playstyle, Tavian has a sling, which Tim can probably show you in a moment. So Tavian has a sling, as you can see on the screen here, and so he can hit obstacles that are far away, and he can stun enemies with that. While Madeira has the ability to flourish certain plants in the world, and so she can access areas that no other character can. But then also in combat, she can use that and turn plant enemies against each other, and so you get this extra strategic level to the combat. Okay, so there are certain parts of the game that only certain characters will be able to get to, so you will need to swap between them all. Yep.
Just on the characters, we've been discussing making all the characters both female and male to try and make it so that players can play whoever they want to play. Like if you want to play a female character, you can do that. If you want to play a male character, you should be able to play whichever one you want.
Woohoo!
Exactly.
If I didn't have a microphone in my hand, I would clap right now, but I can't.
It's been a big part of what we wanted to do. So we immediately decided we've got 2 male, 2 female, and 1 androgynous character, and there's no. I mean, while we're playing Tavian at the moment, there's no sort of favoritism, and we do want to make sure that people can play as whoever they want to be.
Is that a hard decision to make? Like, was there a process to be like, okay, we need to have equal genders, or is it just something that you just did?
People think it's hard. It's not that hard.
It was a 2-second conversation. We went, do we want this? Yes. There was no discussion. It was...
It's weird that it is a discussion point for us right now, but... So in designing male and female characters, does it take a lot longer to do one than the other, or are they all quite simple designs?
So, all of our characters use the exact same animations, and this saves us time because we're a very small team. As a result, the only real difference between them is when the conversations speak to them, which Morgan has to be mindful of, and some of the times when their proportions are different. But 3D tools these days to model and create things, and our art style leads it to make it much easier for us to create these different characters.
Well, they look fantastic. It's really colourful and it looks really exciting.
Thank you.
My final question is just going to be, what are you guys both most excited about for your game? What are your favourite parts?
My favourite part is being able to kill any enemy, take their weapon, and we even want to make it so the weapons can be used in unique, like, environmental puzzles, like a hammer can smash through walls, or fighting claws can climb up a wall, and just it opens up so much more of the world and to different players. Like, they'll all have a different experience because of it.
I'm really excited and really building this world and making it very deep, and having there being a lot of small elements for players to notice and sort of pick out and discover the world that way and really appreciate the writing that I'm doing.
Fair enough. And when can we expect it to be on PC?
So Warden's actually on Greenlight at the moment. So if everyone wants to jump onto Steam, Greenlight, look up Warden, Melody of the Undergrowth. That would be awesome. I've got like a card and everything. Or anyone who's at PAX, you guys should all come check out our booth. We're over in the indie section.
All right, thank you guys so much. This has been Walden. We're at PAX Oz live from the show floor.